Hello, everyone. I have an announcement to make before we start the actual episode. The thing is, this episode is dedicated to Tool and to some Tool stories that I have, and also a review of sorts. Not that I really believe in reviews, but a review of sorts of the last show that I saw of Tool that was the closer in Lisbon for the European leg of their world tour this year in 2019. So if you're not aware of, of the year that it is, if you're a Tool fan, you're probably very much aware of the year that it is right now, unless you're listening to this in the future. Again, I'm straying off immediately from my initial goal, which was to explain what's going on. Okay, so what's going to happen. The thing is that about a month ago, I recorded this review and lots of stories and the actual proper episode of the Made of Things podcast. But then I had to take some time off, and then afterwards I did this prelude that's been recorded, and this was 2 weeks ago. So, explaining why I had delayed the publication of this. So what I'm doing now is another prelude, another preamble, because I had to go on vacation. I had to go on vacation after I had to go to this festival called Parabola, and we had to record a lot of new episodes of the show with Avi Buffalo and Stella Donnelly and lots of talented people over there. So there's plenty of episodes coming up in the future. I said Avi Buffalo to Avi Buffalo. Apologies to Avi, who was a great guy. Okay, so basically, I had to go to this festival, which was up north and took a long time because it's plenty of days. And then afterwards, I had to go straight to my vacation time because we barely have any during the year. So I had to go straight to my vacation time, and I had no way to publish this episode. And I just got back. So the thing is, I'm not going to go review everything that I that I recorded previously. So there's no guests on this episode for the first time ever. For the first time ever, there's no guests on the Made of Things podcast. So it's an hour long, but I think that if you're a Tool fan, it's interesting and you can relate to what you're going to listen to. So the thing is that the reason why I'm not going back and to review and like edit a lot of stuff is that I never edit a lot of stuff, just edit a little, is that just removing stuff that doesn't matter and stuff like that. The thing is that the Tool, that the new album, the new Tool album. I'm very tired because I just got back from my trip, but it comes out tomorrow, or really in a couple of hours, because tomorrow is already here today as I'm recording, so it's already the 30th of August, and the new Tool album is out. So mind you, that when you're going to listen to the proper episode and the first preamble, which is actually the second preamble, being the first preamble, is that I haven't still to now to this moment I haven't listened to the new album because it's not out yet. I could wait a couple of hours, but I'm not going to, because this is let's say that it's release adjacent. So we'll speak about the album in another, much shorter, I would hope, episode, or another episode with someone else. I don't know. I'll speak about the album when I speak about the album. So I have to probably take it in and stuff until I'm able to speak about the album. But okay, so this is the end of the first preamble. It's what you're going to listen to next is the second preamble, which is relevant on its own, and then the proper episode, which is like me rambling for an hour, speaking about mostly Tool stories, mostly the that I have, because I've interviewed Danny, and I've been physically standing close to Maynard and Adam, and I have plenty of Tool stories and related bands that are related to Tool. Not plenty, but just a few. And I ramble on for a while, but I find them kind of cool to know. So consider you guys consider yourselves my friends, and I'm talking to you, telling you about stories that I have from my professional and personal experience, regarding stuff that you like and you might want to know. Okay, so yeah, let's move on. And if this is confusing, first off, I apologize. Secondly, sorry, not sorry, because I love confusing. So confusing is interesting. So most of the time. So if you're offended by confusion, stop right now. Go do something else entirely. Because this is the first preamble, which is actually the second preamble. So it's going to lead into another preamble, and then me rambling on about Tool for a while. But yeah, thoughts on the last show of the tour in Lisbon, and in early July, so almost 2 months ago, but yeah, still valid. And that's it. So I hope you guys enjoy. So bye bye and hello again. Hello guys, welcome. This is actually a pre-intro to the Made of Things podcast, to the new episode of the Made of Things podcast, in which I'm going to speak about the last time I saw Tool, about a month or so ago, and this was actually recorded, not what you're listening to now. I'm recording this pretty much a couple of hours in advance of what you're listening to, or the publication date, really. And but the thing is, I went on vacation, and in the meantime, for like a week, I don't know, and I had recorded something that I planned to publish before I went. But what happened was, I really needed like a few days off. It's not like a week of vacation, like 5 days or something. And I decided, well, it's been almost a month or so it's not going to hurt it very much that it's going to be belated for a week. So yeah, so basically this is my review of the past month's Tool show that I watched. It was like the 4th or 5th time that I watched them. I saw them live, and I've interviewed Danny in the past, so if you want, please let me know. I can unearth that interview from 2006. Also, what you're going to listen to now includes some, a lot of stories by myself regarding Tool, my relationship with the music of the band, and having met them, and somewhat, and some related bands, and such as Mastodon, who have been on the show, and King Crimson, who have been on the show. So I hope this interests you. It's a bit of a ramble. I go on for like an hour or something, but there's a lot of info there, and a lot of considerations on these things. Also, I should mention that one reason that I delayed this is that I immediately, when I went on vacation, the day after, the band Tool posted Fear Inoculum, the title track of the new album, and I couldn't listen to it because I was away and didn't have really much internet access, so I had to wait a while, and so I delayed this because I wanted to at least let you know my thoughts on the track, and this is going in now before the rest of the thing. So please consider that when I do the proper intro, I hadn't heard Fear Inoculum, the track, because it hadn't come out. So basically my idea, I'll keep this short, and basically my idea is that Fear Inoculum is very much welcome. I think from maybe the 3 tracks that I've heard is the one I like the best. And it goes on for 10 minutes, and I think it's quintessential Tool. I think that's very important that Tool sounds like Tool also, but it's also very important for bands to grow. We have to let our artists, the artists that we like, grow and do different things. So it's good that it's unexpected, and it's good that we don't understand it, or if we don't understand it immediately. And I find that Tool is a band that is much like a lot of prog, and I'll go into this in more depth once the episode proper begins. But I think that the sort of prog lends itself to several listens before it really clicks. And as a musician myself, it's been taking, throughout the years, it's been taking less and less time to understand a piece of music, and it's always fascinating when I don't. So I heard Fear Inoculum, I heard some sorts of classic Tool, riffs and breaks, or sorts of riffs and breaks and ideas that are definitely Tool elements, especially drumming, especially guitar, passages wise as well. I feel that Maynard is shouting less and singing more, and that was definitely an element of Tool, the shouting aspects of Maynard. But I'll get into this later on. But this is what I feel from the track. I feel that I need to listen to it more, but at first listen, it's already pretty powerful, and it's rather beautiful, and it builds up on their legacy. I feel that it's just something that needs to be listened to more and more again, and I heard 10,000 Days, and it's also, that album also took me a while and then I eventually really loved it. But I'll get into that in more detail later on. That's basically my first opinion on the track. I just think it's, very well produced, very well played for sure. I've just seen them live. They sound awesome, so no surprise there. And once I pay more attention to lyrics, I'm sure it's going to pack a punch more than the initial idea, and this is very promising, and it's a few steps forward. It's never going to be, whenever you're 13 years waiting for something, it's an eventual letdown, but because the expectation is, you can never, you can never go and reach that expectation, or at least equal that expectation. It's not never, but it's extremely hard. So, for a band to take this long, we'll see. Tool are pretty special. Tool are a band that is very intelligent, and I'm pretty sure that, we'll see. We'll have to see. It's way too soon it's too close to call. It's too soon. But I hope they do rock out more than they have in these 3 tracks that are already known, because we all love our little bit of metal, don't we? So after this, I'll say bye-bye and hello again with the proper intro. Bye-bye and hello again with the proper intro. Welcome to the Made of Things podcast number 79. I am your host, Antonio. Welcome to another episode, and these are 2 short episodes in a relatively short time frame, I would say, comparatively to the last time we spoke, in English at least, which is, I think, a 5-month long period, maybe. And because mostly we've been focusing on the video interviews on YouTube and other side projects that are still to be announced in terms of the Made of Things universe of projects and activities that Nônô and I are doing. Okay, so guys, you're probably listening to this randomly because we don't have a guest this time, which is, I think, possibly the first time this ever happened on. I was gonna say I don't even know how many episodes, but I do. It's 78 episodes. So on the 79th episode, we don't really have a guest or at all. We don't have a guest at all, but about a month ago, Tool finished their European leg of shows in terms of their worldwide tour before the release of the new album, which comes out on August 30th of this year, and not another year, not another year. And I've been a fan of Tool for a very long time. I bought Undertow, I think I was 12, if that checks out. I can't remember if Undertow was 94 or 93. But I think, well, if I bought it in 93, I think I bought it in 93. I must have been 12. That's what I recall. If I bought it in 94, then I was 13. So either or, I was still really young and loved Intolerance and Sober, of course. Those videos that you saw on MTV late at night, and excuse me, and they were very impressive, and obviously the music was super cool and super different and immediately just struck you, and after a while I stopped listening to Tool for a while. And there was another song from off of Undertow. Oh, Undertow, the title track. Title track was awesome. That's it, exactly. And so for a few years, I didn't listen to Tool. I was there rather early on-ish, comparatively to their long career. Obviously, not on their first release, but since Undertow, and I was a young dude, and I quit listening to Tool for a while because I was really into first off indie rock in the mid-90s, and then I had this stint of 3 or 4 years just really not listening to anything or barely anything. I wouldn't say anything, but like barely anything else other than prog rock and the classics and classic adjacent, so like Genesis, Yes, King Crimson, and by the time I was into King Crimson, and obviously solo works of those musicians, and side projects and stuff like that. And by the time I was heavily into King Crimson, so this was like around 2001, Tool released Lateralis. So I skipped Anima completely and went straight into, I heard Schism on TV and was like, oh boy, we are back. So Tool is amazing. And for some reason I had caught Anima on TV or something, I remember on Wawa, which was a German music show on, or an alternative music show on a German network that was Viva. And this show was, excuse me, let me just check something. Okay, I'm leaving this in. I don't care. I hope you guys don't either. But this was a show on Wawa. A show on Viva, I'm sorry. This is late at night. And, oh, a lot of mishaps over here happening. But keeping it real, guys. This is without the bells and whistles. Oh, okay. But so those videos were on Wawa, I think, but I didn't really pay attention. Just like I'll listen to this later, and then I didn't. But then I heard Schism, and I was really already into a lot of odd time signatures and stuff like that by then, which I already was anyway. I've always been, but by then, by 2001, I already had musical knowledge, to enough point or to enough of a degree that I immediately know how to count, when, there's an odd time signature, and I can count, compasses and stuff like that, and meters and stuff like that. So immediately, like, Schisms in a bunch of odd time signatures, and only like recently with the Rick Beato videos and stuff like that, I can really, really, really understand what's going on. But generally, no, I've always thought it was like 11 or something, but no, it changes time signatures a lot. And but Schism got me back into Tool, and so then I listened to Anima afterwards. And then 10,000 Days, I was already working on this area of work, on this line of work. I was already in this line of work, and I interviewed. Sony sent me already. They don't send records anymore, guys, because no one does. But Sony sent me 2,000 Days, 10,000 Days. I'm sorry. So I listened to it, and it didn't hit me immediately as all the other records, but as a good prog record, which is what it is. It's prog, guys. Immediately it was hard to understand. Like, not that it was necessarily hard to grasp musically. It was just, which it is, but anyway, but it's not. It didn't sink into me until I heard it, like, for the I don't know, maybe 7th or 8th time, I think, maybe, or like the 10th time, really, and then it clicked, and then it's really deep, because sonically, 10,000 Days isn't as obvious as the other records in terms of it's like more limited sonically. It's like it exists more in like the palette of sounds is smaller, and it's a shorter range of sounds. But then that makes the this is my opinion, at least, that makes the effect of it. You have to listen to the differences. You have to re-listen, keep listening and listening and listening until the differences become more apparent, and then the pleasure you get from it is really rewarding, and that's really, I think, what a good prog record, not to classify stuff as prog or not prog, but usually prog records or that are described as prog have that. The first time I listened to King Crimson, I hated it, really. Apart from Schizoid Man, which is like a really rockin' track, I thought that the rest of it was really kind of ugly, and it is. But then it isn't, because the beauty of it is in its difference and in its intensity and its kind of obliqueness and it's really gorgeous. It's not like Genesis gorgeous or even Yes gorgeous, but I think like King Crimson more than I like Yes and Genesis, and yet Genesis, like, and I'm talking about not all of Yes. Like, Yes has some stuff that I really don't enjoy, but Yes at its best, and Genesis at its best, and Genesis has more of its best than Yes has its best, and King Crimson is all around cool all the time. So but then when it's, for instance, obviously beautiful, it's less obviously beautiful than these other bands that make gorgeous things. And King Crimson is not necessarily about being gorgeous. It has really, I can tell you, like, very, very, for instance, Night Watch is an amazing. This will relate to Tool fans, because Tool fans a lot of them will know King Crimson because they're fans, have toured together, they're fans of each other, heavily influenced Tool. in many ways. But yeah, by then, so you know, a lot of really gorgeous things happen, or gorgeous songs are in, or at least happen in the music of King Crimson, which is more dedicated to being, I guess, evil, you know, which also happens in Genesis sometimes. Return of the Giant Hogweed, for instance, Watcher of the Skies, for instance, some bits of Supper's Ready, I would say, are evil, but not, you know, King Crimson evil. Anyway, we're straying off the point, but that's, my point was that King Crimson took a while to get into, as, you know, yes, albums took a while to get into, and also, for instance, my first foray into prog, I would say, was like, you know, no one's putting out anything at the moment. This is like late 97, apart from, you know, I don't know, I was hooked on the latest Pavement record at the time, and listening to Pavement, I think, a lot. So late 97, and on top of that, I thought, like, okay, apart from this, there's really nothing else that I'm listening to at the moment. So it's like Pavement, I know Sebado, I don't know, like all those bands in 97, but like turn to 98, and I was like, okay, so I kind of need something else now as well. So I turned to my this is turning to my backstory of my musical taste, kind of. But we'll get to Tool, don't worry. This is about Tool, really. And I already was listening to Tool back then. So, but I went to my uncle's record collection, and without having him, you know, push any record onto me, I actively sought out my uncle and said, who's a professional musician and active, and still today is a part of a popular band over here in Portugal. I asked him, okay, so about these records of the bands that you love, like these Genesis records and Yes records and all of that, what do you recommend? Where should I, what's like the best, I guess, and what should I listen to? And he went like, I would say my favorite record of Genesis is Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, so you try that. And you give, for instance, Fragile, Yes's Fragile a listen. And King Crimson, I have these 80s things, but maybe you want to try this best of collection or something that was around. I don't remember the name of the collection, but it was an early 90s, like best of kind of, which was weird, which is weird. But with a band like King Crimson, it's kind of like, it's not a bad idea because you kind of get a taste of all the very different generations that they have. Okay, so I started with Lamb, and I listened to Lamb, and I had the experience, and it's a double album, and I had the experience of not remembering one song. And we're talking about someone that's, you know, myself, I think I have I was born with kind of like a musical memory, you know, and the musical sensibility, that's for sure. My mom told me this the other day, by the way. I'm going to tell you this. Okay, so, excuse me. Wow. My mom told me this like a few years ago, not the other day, but a few years ago, and I said, how am I finding out about this now? Which is, you used to, because we were speaking about as a baby, if I was difficult to fall asleep or not, and my mom said, like, not falling asleep was a chore, but it seemed like for a while you only managed to fall asleep. You know, Dad would rock you in his arms while dancing, and you'd fall asleep only if you listened to Marvin Gaye, and not any other. And not anyone else, not anyone else's music, and not any other music. So only Marvin Gaye. So even as a baby, I was already very kind of picky. So with what I wanted or not, and I don't even listen to Motown that much anymore, or at all, or haven't for a very long time. But yeah, apparently only Marvin Gaye for me. fantastic. But okay, so I was already I was already. My mouth is dry. I apologize, guys, if you're suffering. But my to the point. Okay, so my musical ear was already developed, but was still developing, and wasn't really accustomed to prog. And that's a thing with prog, though. And a lot of Tool, for instance, like Tool seems to be more accessible than it is. And then by seeming more accessible, then it automatically becomes more accessible. And it's a really popular band, but a lot of people with good taste don't understand how Tool is amazing. So, because Tool, for some reason, I don't know why this is. I mean, I kind of can understand because there's some connection to nu metal and stuff like that. But it's kind of criminal to like put them in the nu metal category, because it's very much a band that sounds like nothing else, first off. And it really is kind of an ignorant comment if you despise all the musicality that is in Tool. And that's not something, if it's your thing, that to say that to dismiss Tool because it's not catchy, because you like tunes to be like 3 minutes long and whatever, and just like jumpy, then it's your thing. You know, everyone has their own taste, no judging. But if you're going to say the Tool are like corny and cheesy and stuff like that, which they aren't at all, you know, there's really absolutely no cheese in terms of, it isn't, you know, cheesy at all. It's kind of ignorant if you say that, because it's musically it's in very good taste, guys. The musical language of Tool is really in very, very good taste, because that has to do with music and doesn't have to do with global aesthetics. So global aesthetics, I can understand, they're kind of broad, because they're like you know, focused on anger, focused on darkness, focused on anxiety, focused on, I don't know, a lot of stuff like, but those are feelings that are covered by a lot of art. Like Limp Bizkit are not particularly good and they were angry at stuff, and you can, and the feeling is the same. You have, how many feelings do you have? I haven't counted. I don't know how many feelings do you have, like 20 in general. I don't know, but how many emojis are there describing feelings? Like 30 or 40? That's kind of a limited palette, you know, in terms of range of what, you know, how many songs are different about love. Like you can have all, like the worst song ever and the best song ever about love or about anger or whatever. So it's not because they're kind of, you know, I don't think it's the emotions. It might be the global aesthetics and the appearance of being simple. And it isn't, guys. It's something that you should. I'm speaking to Tool fans who already get the band, but I'm helping you to tell your friends, really, in terms of argument. Okay, so I guess I'm doing my thing. Okay, so I think when I get into Tool, we're speaking about 10,000 Days and all of this. And 2,000 Days back then, it took a while to get, you know. It took a while to sink its claws into me, but then it did, and then it's awesome. But I think my favorite record is Lateralis, either way. But back in 2006, I interviewed Danny. Yes, I did. I might put this up. I might put Danny on. It was for another media, not my own channel, and it was exclusively because Tool don't, or at least didn't do any video interviews back then. This was 2006, so it's like 13 years ago. And Tool came here to play the same place they played this time. Now it's called Altice Arena, but Altice. Because I don't know how to pronounce Altice in English, but whatever. Altice Arena. And it was called Pavilhão Atlântico, which is catchier, I guess, now. But it's the Altice Arena. But Yeah, but it was called Pavilion Atlantic back then, I think, and Mastodon opened. Yeah, so that was amazing. Mastodon Tool and Mastodon, who have been on the show twice. Oh, well, not on Made of Things, but the previous form of Made of Things. But yeah, I might put up. We'll see. I might put up the Danny interview. It was more interviewee than I'm sure than our current register of or style of interview, which isn't an interview, but or it is in a very broad sense of the word. Okay, so moving on. Anyway, I'm a longtime Tool fan. I've seen them a few times. I think about 4 or 5. I think there was this was like the 5th. Okay, so Tool live story time, and the point of this is I'm going to do a review. But the name of the episode will say Tool Show Review. Last show of the European Tour review or something. I don't really believe in reviews because wherever you are in the show, if you're like 10 feet away, you might have a completely different experience because it depends on if people around you are speaking too loudly, if there's fucking phones, and Tool shows have no phones, but until I'll speak about that later. But Tool shows have no phones, so there's no phones. But I don't know, even just like the sound, the way it hits you, what you're able to see, if I don't know if you want to jump around or not, and yeah. So reviews aren't really something to believe in. So this is just my own experience, and that's why I'm reproducing this on or telling it to you guys on this here podcast. Okay, so just a quick recap. How long can I speak about Tool? I apparently 22 minutes and not even get to the subject. Okay, but okay, so. I saw Tool. First off, I saw Tool, I think, in 2002 for the Ozzfest tour. This was in a really, really, really gorgeous venue, which is the Restelo Stadium, the Belenenses Stadium over here in Lisbon, which faces the river. Like, one of the stalls does not exist. It's just like faces the river. Like the stadium only has 3 parts, and one of them just faces the river. And we were speaking, I think, late June or early July, which is a date that Tool usually play over here in Portugal. I think most of them were in July. Yeah. This might have been June or late May. I don't remember. It's been a long time, but I think this was like late June, early July, so summer, and it was gorgeous. And this was the Lateralis tour, so I fully remember. First off, I fully remember Maynard being covered. Oh, first off, by the way, okay, this was Ozzfest, and Ozzy cancelled because he had the Queen's Jubilee. So I love Ozzy, and I just saw Ozzy live on his goodbye tour a year ago with Judas Priest, who were on the show. You know, Ian, we interviewed Ian. He was on the show, so check that out if you want. It's up on YouTube, and so because it was Judas Priest and Ozzy. So nothing against Ozzy, but I really wanted to see a full set of Tool, and because I had never seen them before, and I had seen A Perfect Circle. I think no, this was later. Perfect Circle was 2003, I think. Okay, because it's not the same band, obviously, but I'd never seen Maynard live. Yeah, absolutely. I'd never seen Maynard, and I'd never seen Tool live. And this was 2002 at Ozzfest in Portugal, and Ozzy couldn't come. So, first off, I was excited because Tool played a full show. Slayer played before, and I've seen Slayer be awesome, but this time they sucked for some reason. I don't know, and I had to bear with that, and I had to bear with, resist the bad Slayer show and withstand also Kitty performance, which was I don't even remember how Kitty was. They were not good, I think, as far as I remember. But okay, so a lot of unfortunately not very good shows, and then a full set of Tool. So this was, dusk, and not. It was like the sunset and then dusk and then night, but it was hot. And Maynard was, so this was a full set. First off, the decor was amazing, the visuals were amazing, really gorgeous by the time, by the same standard, I would say, as or top standard, or I don't know, the top tier of the standard, I guess, of the Lateralis tour. And Maynard, immediately, he was fully shaved, almost fully naked, painted like electric blue with pink fluorescent dots on his chakras, I think. So this was a weird thing, like this unusual, or at least unexpected, really unexpected thing. Another unexpected thing that I had no idea is that, and everyone knows this now, but the setup of the stage was Adam up front, like guitar player up front, Maynard in the back, in the stand, like in this, not in the stand, like in this platform. Then Danny, the drummer, on another platform, like up high and like more to the back, and Justin down to the right if you're facing, so the bass player. Okay, so lead instruments in Tool, which I've always figured at the time to be, some stuff is obviously led by bass lines and led by guitar lines, but I think that the lead, at least how it feels like in Tool, is the vocals and the drums. It's a weird dynamic in terms of, it's at least an uncommon dynamic. Even if the song is driven by a riff, I think that the expressive, flowy elements of the music are the vocals and the drums, are the ones that can shift around more without it being. Like Adam's guitar plays a more rhythmic role in Tool's music than the usual guitar does in any other music. Like the rhythm section is really, or has been until recently, we'll get to that today, hopefully. But I think I would guess my opinion is, I would say, that's what I mean, etc. But the guitar and the bass are really the rhythmic elements of Tool, and the ones that have to keep in time and stuff like that. You know what I mean. Not keep in time, but like the mainstays of or the driving forces, not necessarily the leads though. Okay, so this was the first surprise that I had, and the show was amazing and unforgettable, and I think still to this day, I think my favorite show of all time, if not my favorite show, at least the top 3 of my favorite shows of all time, because I've seen Crimson, so it's and I've seen Dillinger Escape Plan, and I've seen, I don't know, guys, I've seen a lot of it's. So this is a not a hyperbole. This is, or at least not an exaggeration. It's like one of the best shows I've ever seen. That first Tool show, and then so I think that's very hard to beat, still, even to this day. And the new show is really good. Okay, so the other time I saw the guys was at Super Rock over here. Mastodon were also on the bill. I think this was 2006. So it's 2002, 2006 on the European tour. Not the, it was still an amazing show, but not the best show, because it was this already with the 10,000 Days material, but I don't think it was the best show that I've seen. Possibly the least good, but still very, very good. And then a few months later, they come back to Portugal to play. So this was also in July, by the way. And then back in November, they come to later in the year, they come back to Portugal in November with Mastodon to play the same venue that they played this time. So this was still 2006. So I hadn't seen the guys since then. And so this time was my fourth show. This was on July the 2nd, and it was the last, I'm talking about this show this year, which the one I'm going to speak about. And I think that globally, I'll tell you, I'll go through the lineup, the set list. But I think globally, immediately, what you see is that oh, by the way, regarding the previous show, they incorporated, which they couldn't in the festival version of the show, but in the indoors version of the show in 2006, they already had the visuals of lasers that are in time with songs like Vicarious, which is really exciting to see. Like the songs are already amazing, but when you see all the lasers that go like, I don't know, 500 meters, like a mile, a mile long. The lasers are a mile long, and then they cross with each other, and it's all in time. Like in keeping in time with the songs. It's really impressive, and it really works. Really works. But they still have that, because they'll have those. So seeing this time, that's the first thing. Like the laser is still there, not overused, which is cool. The setup is still the same. It's the classic Tool. Like Maynard, Danny in the back, and Adam and Justin up front, onto the sides. But the main dynamics, the difference here is, I think that Adam now, and I hinted at it a few minutes ago, but I think that Adam kind of is taking more of a lead role in the band. I think I'm not talking about composition or the driving force of riffs, because that's pretty much between Justin and Adam and has always been. But I'm talking about the lead aspect. I'm talking about kind of letting it breathe more, getting more upfront with what you're doing. If you know what I mean, because Maynard does that with the voice, Danny certainly does that with the drumming, and Adam is doing this more now, which is really interesting. And it's kind of like, I thought of this myself. I'm not sure if you guys agree. Please comment if you're watching this on YouTube, for instance, or leave a review on iTunes, because it always helps. Thank you so much. But that's a difference that I myself feel that is true, because I've watched them, I've seen them enough, and I know enough, which is more than enough, but I know enough to see like these small differences. And I think, at least in my opinion, is that the new dynamics, which seem the same, aren't the same. I think that Adam is playing more of a lead role in this style of playing, and this certainly happens on the new songs. Like the new songs, I think, are telling of a difference in dynamics, and it's a difference in dynamics, not necessarily in an aesthetic, like musical difference. It's obviously music, but not like, I mean in terms of notes and in terms of palette. It's not in terms of palette, it's a change in dynamics. It's just a change of really energy of the elements in the band. So there's more Adam now. That's what I think. And more Adam's presence. Not necessarily more guitar, just like more Adam's presence. More of Adam's presence. That's what I think. So you guys, please discuss if you want. I'll be here all night if you want to discuss this. I think this might be like 30 minutes in now. 34. Fantastic. Okay, good. Okay, so about the set list. No, it's not about set list. So Justin was Justin. This kind of felt like I didn't feel very different in terms of Justin. Didn't feel very different in terms of Danny. Danny is Danny and plays awesomely like Danny. And Maynard, I think, is just, he is singing, I think, technically better. And the beautiful parts, I think, might be more beautifully sung in terms of the way his voice flows. But the thing with Tool and with Maynard really all the time was that he alternates the beautiful parts with the singy shouty the shouting parts, and that's really tough to do as a performer. And Maynard is not getting any younger, and I totally understand if he's not shouting the things. So I think the more difficult parts, and that's the big difference. He avoids it with much elegance, I would say, because he goes into falsettos instead of shouting the harder, the higher notes, and because he seemed to do that effortlessly, but I'm guessing that he's saving his voice and is not like doing that on tour. And I guess he's saving it for recording and stuff like that. And it's something that needs practice. You can't just not shout for a while and then you'll be able to shout. But I guess that he's saving his voice or something like that. I don't know. I would ask him if possible, but that's not possible. So I hope that we'll find this out. Why this is happening, like the management of his vocal efforts, because it still works though. Like, guys, he'll like the higher notes, the higher pitched notes, he will just I'll give you an example in a bit. Okay, so this is you can find this easily, the set list, anywhere else, on Setlist FM, for instance, and but this is true, and I was taking notes in any case, but this checks out. Okay, so. There's an intro, there's a third eye intro, and then there's Anima. Anima is pretty much exactly the same. Everyone goes insane. The place is sold out. It was sold out for ages, which happens barely ever in Portugal. So this was announced in November, and by December it was last year, and by December it was sold out. So it's insane. And it was the last show of the tour, and Tool shows in Portugal are always great. And Tool love playing Portugal, and there's a lot of Tool fans over here, obviously, because a huge, the biggest venue of the country is sold out, has been sold out in a month, which is for Portugal really quick. And Anima goes down really well, awesome, crowd is fired up, and then they played The Pot, which is a catchy song, if you want to call Tool catchy, and then getting all there's no bad material, guys, so it's going to be awesome. And they obviously are playing as well as they ever have, and I would say that most people there had never seen Tool live, So I would say I would guess that most people weren't there 13 years ago. 13 years ago. 13 years difference. It's insane. At least half of them. Okay, let's be more conservative. Okay, so let's be more conservative. Something that I say never. Okay, but Anima. Then you have The Pot. It's awesome, really fun. Then they play the full version of Parabola, because they cut it short, I read, during this European tour, but they played the full version of Parabola, and then Parabola, which is one of my favorite Tool songs, and it's amazing. It's such as was Anima, but Parabola was great and beautiful and really well sung, but I started noticing that Maynard wasn't hitting the distorted voices, the voicings, the distorted ways of wasn't really shouting, so just like, which is fine though, I fully understand that. Just Tool makes a lot of noise, guys, so if you're going to falsetto in some bits or places, it's fine, it works anyway, everyone's singing along anyway, so it's fine. Then they played a new song that I only had heard online like a month before this show, I think, which is called Descending, apparently, I think, because all of these titles, I think Descending and Invincible are not official. I think they're fan attributed. The only official title is the album title, which is Fear Inoculum, which I forgot to say up top, but you already know. Because there's been plenty of news this week, and I totally forgot to do this intro, but there's been plenty of news. Now they're up on streaming platforms, which is musicians play nothing. Musicians earn nothing from playing songs, like unless you're in the top 10 tier of Spotify, you don't get paid anything. Like there's musicians getting 20 cents a year for from streaming platforms. It's ridiculous. So I'm not really a big fan of streaming platforms, but I guess that for Tool now, and for them to make a big thing out of it, that a lot of people are going to listen to their records on streaming platforms because they couldn't and now they can. So again, there's a parallel here with the show. So you can't for a long time, and then you can. So, and when you can, then there's a lot of people doing it. So when there's a lot of people doing it, they might go to the top of the streaming platforms, maybe, because they made a thing out of it. I don't know, but I'm glad that they decided to take this step, and I hope that they don't put the new record out on so that the people so that people can buy the record. I hope they don't put it up online. At least immediately, so they can have some revenue, because poor Tool guys, whatever. I want them to have all the money they want. Okay, so I certainly gave them my money plenty of times. Okay, so especially with by the way, that's a good way of supporting your band. If buying records obviously it helps a lot, but it's not the best way. The best way to support your band is to buy merch, guys. So apparently, I guess it depends on your business model, but usually it is. So merch is the place that bands get money from. Obviously, apart from if you can't book a band, then at least buy their merch. Which we probably can't book a band to play, but buy their merch. And so because buying music isn't necessarily the most important thing you can do for a musical artist. So because they don't get much money from the CDs they put out anyway, so they could get like a third of it or something, or 10% or something. So anyway, it depends on the business model, guys, but that's what I mean, like generally, buy some shirts, or buy some, I don't know, buy stuff like that, or special editions. That really helps, I think. Anyway, okay, so from Descending was cool, but I don't think that either Descending or Invincible are, at least immediately, it's a new direction. I don't think they're immediately gorgeous. I don't think they're immediately badass, and I'm curious to see how long it will take to develop, in terms of us getting accustomed. I really like them, but I'm not so sure, that I already love them. It might need to grow on me, which is, as I said before, kind of a common thing with Tool. Some stuff is immediate, like, for instance, Vicarious, like you listen, or Schism, obviously, and obviously like Sober and stuff like that. But with the last album, Vicarious hit me immediately. Super loved it immediately. All the rest of the album, and then I ended up loving Jambi or Jambi, and Rosetta Sound, and like all those things. Okay, so from Descending we go to Schism. Schism is brilliant and super fantastic. fantastic. And then I would say, and then it's Invisible again, the same thing, like a really long song, more beautifully sung. I'm not so sure that we're going to have a lot of shouting from Maynard on this record. And if you look at the Perfect Circle record, the last one, he's singing more and going less high pitched, and less straining his voice, I think, is an option. And then after Invincible, we get an old song with Intolerance, which I never listened to, I never heard live, and that was refreshing and really cool and awesome. Oh, they're playing Intolerance, wow, and it still kicks ass, fantastic. Then Jambi or Jambai, I'm not so sure how you say this, and it rocks. And by then you can tell that this is where you're at the 9th song, and it's been like an hour and a half. So, because Tool songs are long, but this is for Tool fans, so you guys already know. And then they finished the first half with 46 and 2. 46 and 2, obviously, one of the best Tool songs, obviously. If it's going to be, it's just an amazing, beautiful song. So it's always going to be awesome. And I, for one, I currently have a back hernia, and I can't really dance so much. But and I've spoken about this with Bill from Mastodon, that about the way that you can dance to odd time signatures. And and I remember being at the Tool show in 2002, and I forgot to mention this, and everyone was like around me was like just listening to the music. Like, there was some moshing, but barely. And most people were just like being cross-armed and just enjoying the music, which is fine. But I jump around in my place, like vertically, and or at least used to. And now I kind of do the same thing, because I can't strain my back with the jumping, because I have a lower back hernia, as I said. So I kind of like do the one step dance that Maynard does, but in rhythm, So guess that's how I enjoy music. Like, I like dancing to odd time signatures. What you gonna do? And I remember Bill saying that, well, Mastodon has a lot of old time signature old time signatures. Old time signature shop, and and the. They have a lot of odd time signatures, and most of their fans don't really necessarily dance around too much, which is normal. And same thing with Tool. But I do. Yes, sir. And I did and I did as well. And I remember this. I've met Adrian Blue of King Crimson, and it's one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. And he's one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. And I remember that seeing King Crimson twice, like once in 2001 in Madrid, and in 2003 when I was living in Rome. And the Rome show was outdoors, and it was during the day, and or at least started early during. It was Italian summer in Rome, so it gets much like in Lisbon. It gets in June, July, like it'll get dark really late. So it was sunny still, and I remember jumping around to odd time signatures in King Crimson songs, and landing on jumping during a silence and landing on the beat. And I remember distinctly, and I told Adrian Blue about this, so this is on. This is recorded when I interviewed Adrian. It's on the channel if you guys want to. It's on the YouTube channel if you guys want to check it out. But I remember, dancing to King Crimson songs, and everybody was like not moving, and I was dancing on my own, like I'm not bothering anyone, so I'm just jumping in my place. And I remember, like, there's a silence, and then I jump. Everyone's like static. I jump and I land on the beat, and Adrian kind of gives me this smile, like like, ooh, very well done, sir. Like, ooh, like, I like that, you know. So, and I didn't imagine it. Like, obviously, I didn't remember, but it was there. Like, I jumped and he just looked. He looked at me and like went, "Wow, cool." So, just like it's funny because that's how I enjoy my prog dancing around. Yes, true. Okay, so after 46 and 2, back to the Tool show. There's an intermission, and then there's like this. It's called CC Trip, which and I think it's like this the LSD dude guys, the I forget, but it's the one they feature on Hoffman. Yeah, they feature on like it was very similar to the Hoffman tape they play, or the the voice excerpt they play on the record Anima. It's very similar. It's called CC Trip, and it's, I don't know, I guess it's the same. I guess it's the same. It's very similar. Oh, by the way, I forgot. During the intermission, I saw something that I'd never seen. Okay, so it's not an encore, you know, because encores are lame. Who cares about encores anymore? They're made to make you, you know, artificially feel, make you feel good. So if it's artificial, then it sucks. So, or, you know, let's be real for a minute. Okay, so, but guys need to have been playing for a while, need to just, you know, chill for 10 minutes. So there's, once they get off stage after 46 and 2, there's the lasers are configured to show a timer that counts down with no explanation. Counts down, and it's a nice, you know, it's a nice little add-on to the whole thing. You know, like the lasers turn into a digital clock, and it's counting down backwards. I mean, not counting down backwards would be up, but it's counting down from 10 minutes or 12 minutes or something to 0. So it's counting down. It hits 0. The guys get back on stage again. They play while the thing. Oh, by the way, there's a drum solo somewhere. I totally forgot. It's not here, but there's a drum solo on the end of something. It might be this. I think that CC Trip is like the voice thing, and then Danny solos. That's what I think, but I don't remember. But this was a month ago. Oh shit! But there's a solo, and there's also a Justin solo, bass solo. But it might be with Ions. Not so sure. I went there and I forgot. Now you're listening to this, but this doesn't matter really. There's somewhere there's a drum solo, somewhere there's a bass solo, whatever. Like, they're awesome and they're a lot of fun. So and it's very impressive because Danny is an amazing drummer. So yeah. But there's CC Trip, there's Vicarious, and here's where because the sound was amazing, guys. Like, the sound was really, really good on this show. And this venue is not the best sounding venue ever. So Tool were very loud, but not loud as far as pinching your ears, or not pinching, perforating your ears, or your eardrums, and or piercing your eardrums, or perforating. Perforating was correct. Yes, yes. And Maynard was, but Maynard did not hit the. They were very loud. They sounded awesome, but Maynard did not hit the, vicariously, like the whole world dies. It was kind of went like this, like I'm doing, because I'm recording this. I don't want to shout. Vicarious goes to, I guess this is an A. I would say, I haven't tested this, but this is a high A or something. And he has distortion and shouts and does not falsetto. And that's exactly what I did. I think he just falsettoed it. Or barely even sung it, really. So it's just it was kind of almost in the back. So most of the show, he went the higher notes. He just did not just falsettoed them, or the different versions of melodies, which is fun because you're watching a live show and it's supposed to be different. So and get different versions of all of that. I don't mind at all if he's not doing exactly the same as on the record. But with Vicarious, it's like, okay, so, and I was like, oh, this is one of the hardest things he's ever sung. Let's see if we can manage because you have to hold the distortion for a long time, much like, singing The Grudge. You're going to, it's even harder than the scream on The Grudge. Like, so he's singing The Grudge, okay? So, and I've seen this live, and he always does this for the longest time, and he holds the screaming note of the Grudge seamlessly, always. He must have some sort of apparatus, like some sort of delay or something, but give or take, it's like the record. I think the 2002 time that I saw them, he really bellowed it out. Like, he really sung it really with a lot of strength. But in the future, like later versions on the other shows, I think he held it more defensively, because he'll fuck up his own voice, really. And this time, obviously, they didn't play The Grudge, so there's no terms of comparison. But what I mean is that I think that the shouty climax of Vicarious is possibly even harder than the long 20-second scream on the Grudge. So we avoided that, and I think that's for the best. Like, we want him to sing for much longer. If he will or not, we'll be here to find out. But okay, so after Vicarious, there's a tape called Ions, or Ions, yeah, and then Stinkfist, and this closed the show, and Maynard basically, as you know, like you probably know this, they forbid everyone from, they possibly do this in every show, so what I'm going to say is not very interesting, but they forbid everyone from shooting the show, like from taking out their phones, like in recording anything at all, which is great. Tool forbid you from filming anything and from moshing, for the length of the show, but then by the last song, Maynard goes out, and this, as I said, this might happen in all of the shows, but like, you can take your phones out and play with it in public now. Like, you can record everything you want about this song. And of course, it's Stinkfist, which is like a famous Tool song, and it's an old song, so who cares anymore? So they, people want to film things, then they will. So suddenly everyone was filming Stinkfist, so that's exactly what you'll find on the social media. At least most of it, most social media posts will be about Stinkfist, I guess, because everyone takes their phones out, and then because they allow, it's more pleasant when you're forbidden than you're allowed, I guess, not to make it sexual now, and I guess this is taking a turn, but Stinkfist, I filmed the whole thing, but I was also not bothering anyone because I was up against a wall. So, I still managed to get really good footage, and it's up on the, on the Made of Things account on Instagram. So go check that out. It has a couple thousand views, so more than a couple of thousand views. It's nice. More than thousands of views is millions. It doesn't have millions of views. It has more than a couple of thousand views, which is nice. I gladly welcome, Tool fans to our Made of Things umbrella. Anyway, but yeah, you're allowed to film Stinkfist. Okay, last King Crimson reference to close, and this is why you shouldn't. There's plenty of reasons why you shouldn't record stuff on your phone. And there's only a couple of reasons that you should. The only reason that I think you should record something on your phone is that, for instance, you're recording for someone that isn't able to be there. This happened to me this summer during Grace Jones' show. And my dad and my parents love Grace Jones. We grew up listening to Grace Jones during car trips and stuff like that. And Grace Jones was, and she was playing. She's 72, playing a hell of a show, to a point that I went like, oh, I'm going to record some of this. I mean, not professionally, you know, just for my own, just so I can show my parents, you know, because that's an altruistic thing to do, and that's a good motive, you know, for recording something. If you're just recording something to watch it later in a tiny screen that you're never really going to watch, let's face it, who of us watches this, like, you know, then don't. Because you're ruining your own experience. Like, if you're working as I am, you know, and recording a bit of the show, and I try to keep this to like the first 10 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, so I don't bother anyone else with recording, you know. If I'm recording something for social media and stuff like that, it's my line of work, so I need to. And you'll get good videos, you know, from me for social media and stuff like that, and Instagram and stuff like that. Major things on Instagram. Late plug, 15 minutes in, fantastic. And but yeah, and but don't record unless you're doing it for someone else or professionally, because you're never going to look at the video. It's or try to keep it down to like a song per set. Okay, or something, so that you don't have your phones up. So, but my little story, and the short story was, like, I'd never seen King Crimson. I traveled to Madrid. I live in Portugal. I don't live in Spain. And I'm suddenly pissed off at you for some reason, for no reason, for thinking that I was in Spain. I'm not. I'm in Portugal. But so we drove like with my friend of mine, like, who's not with us anymore. One of my best friends, who passed away a few years ago, unfortunately. It was his birthday last week, so we're thinking of you, and still, still always remember you. And but we took a bus, actually, because he drove. I didn't drive back then, so we went to Madrid to see King Crimson. So I said, like, fuck it, I know that Robert hates, like, you know, cameras and recorders and stuff like that, but I'm going to take my recorder. I'm going to take and I'm going to take one of those cheap cameras that you can just you know, disposable cameras, that's what you call them. So I took a disposable camera and immediately, guys, like on the second picture, this is no flash, obviously, I'm not an animal, but cause I'm a civilized human being, so no flashes at performers, but no flash, like, someone just saw me. It's a small venue. It was like Razzmatazz or something, like, obviously. Or no, not Razzmatazz. Razzmatazz in Barcelona. But it was like club, I fucking forget. It's a name of oh shit, I forgot. It was in Barcelona. It was in Madrid. And it was a name of another city, like Budapest or something. It was the name of another place. It was not that the Budapest. It was something like this. I don't remember. I apologize if you're from Madrid and you know this, but I don't recall. I didn't look this up because I wasn't planning on speaking about this. I was planning about doing this in like 10 minutes, not in 50 minutes. So apologies, but it's fun. You're not speaking to me, but you're listening to me tell Tool stories. So I hope you enjoy it. You know, even if it's rambling on, it's a lot of stuff to say. So anyway, I bring a camera and bring a recorder, and for the first, I think, 2 songs, I'm extremely concerned with recording and extremely concerned with taking pictures of King Crimson, and I'm not really there, you know, and this was a time way before smartphones. And the moment that the security guy says, like, no, the camera is staying with me, and the recorder I'll give you after the show, come pick it up. You're obviously not allowed to record this. And I'm like, fair enough. Okay, it's a bummer. But then like 2 minutes in, I forget, like, oh, okay, now I'm really focusing, and now I'm really enjoying this, you know, like, because with complicated music, you need to focus. You can't be like zoning out and be high or something like that. Like, you need to be aware, and the more sober you are, and the more you let the mathematics of it all get into your brain, then it's going to start messing with you, and then it's going to really be impactful and meaningful. And then The Crimson Show is one of the other shows that it's top 3 again, like top 3 ever. And I've seen a lot of fucking shows, guys, and it's since I was 10. So and professionally, obviously, doing this for 15 years. So I got it. Like, why are you wasting your time with certain bands, not all of the bands, obviously, but why are you wasting your time concerned with videos that you're never going to watch again? You're not paying to enjoy the music that is being performed for you by these amazing artists that are very hard to catch. So especially King Crimson, especially Tool, bands that you're going to see like 3 or 4 times, if at all, in your lifetime. I've seen Adrian 4 times, but which is incredible. And I've seen Tool 4 times, and I've seen Maynard 5 times, because this includes Perfect Circle. And I've seen Bob Fripp. Oh no! I saw King Crimson 3 times. I forgot. The last one was in 2015 when they were on the show. So that's another thing. Pat Mastelotto, guys. I totally forgot. This is the end of the show, but like the Tool review and General Praga, I guess, is the name of the name of the episode. But guys, if you're like King Crimson, there's King Crimson content on the podcast with Pat Mastelotto 4 years ago, almost, in 2015 in Brighton. And he was on the show. Awesome chat. Awesome dude. Still keep in touch, kind of. Every now and again, there's like a message, and dude's still playing with Crimson. Awesome. And Adrian played. And I obviously saw Bob Fripp, Uncle Bob. I told that story on the show. Okay, go listen to that. It's up online. It's easy. It's on this show. It's on iTunes and it's on YouTube, in the audio version. No video version of that though. It was still a podcast back in 2015. It's only been a YouTube show, not a YouTube show, a video show, since 2016. So I didn't film the Pat Mastelotto interview, one of the King Crimson drummers, and King Crimson drummer since 93, 93, like kind of a little before Thrack. So the 94 album. So catch that. There are King Crimson stories in that, with Bob Fripp, whom I've never met and most likely never will, but I've stood very close to him. Much the same way that I stood very close to Maynard when I was interviewing Danny. Talk about burying the leads. But still, no, but Maynard, oh, by the way, Tool guys, very tall. Danny, really tall. Adam, I saw passing by, very tall. Justin, I don't remember. I think pretty tall as well. Maynard, really tiny. Because Maynard was just like chilling with his cup of coffee backstage before I was interviewing Danny, and they're very serious about the whole, what do you call it? Interference in their life, I guess. Like, they're very cool. They're very nice. Danny is extremely nice, but Maynard doesn't like to be bothered, I guess. So I think, like, because I never spoke to him, but I didn't want to, before an interview, like, address Maynard, because he might not enjoy that. He might want to be left alone, even if I'm already, always nice. And the same thing with Bob Fripp, but more on that if you're going to listen to the episode. So, which is not as long as this one, guys. So if you stuck around, there's your little tip, your little reward for sticking around, and your reward is me loving you as well. So, and suddenly I woke up because I'm recording this at 5 48 in the morning for some reason, and it's been a long episode, a lot of musings about Tool, but I think I got it out of my system, and I think I made it worthwhile. I think I made it worthwhile. I think there's some nuggets of goodness, enough nuggets of goodness on this episode to make you listen to it, even if it has no guest. The guest was myself. The guest was you, and you're welcome into my home anytime you want. Well, but not necessarily anytime you want. This episode, if my home is made of things, then you're welcome to come into Made of Things. Often, plenty. Bing. Enough. That's enough. Bye, guys. Follow us on social media, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And please like this, share this, listen to this. I hope you're a Tool fan. And I hope you listen to good music and enjoy it and love it and reward it and reward yourself as well. Thank you so much. Bye. Kisses and hugs and shake your butt. Bye.